towards the head of Myler this time. He leapt well. Did. This is Quinn. He's got away from Ramsey. He's found a cross and it's headed downwards and against the post and in! Curtis Davies has made it 2 for Hull City!
And as we all know, nothing happened after that point. Hello and welcome to another edition of the Flashback episodes, the 2010s for Hull City. I'm your host, Alex, and with me I have Dan. First of all, how are you, Dan?
Yeah, look, I'm pretty good. How are you?
Yeah, good. Happy to have you joining us for the first time for this series of episodes. And then back from the first half of the season review, we've also got Mitch. How are you, Mitch?
Good, thank you, mate. Yeah, good to be back.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's get right into it. So we did have our first half of the season review a couple of weeks ago now, just Mitch and myself. So I might start with you, Dan. I'll jump onto the second slide here, just sort of summarizing that second half of the season. I mean, I think from memory, you were saying this is sort of the first season that you were supporting City. So might have a few sort of foggy memories of that season. But what do you remember of it? And I guess in particular, I mean, if any memories of that second half of the season, if you've got them.
Look, it was a weird one. All I remember was I don't remember how I came about even choosing City, but I did, and but I couldn't get a hold of any of the games to watch for the first part of the season, and so I was just checking the table. I think still trying to make up my mind on who I was going to choose, and then City was going pretty well, punching with the big boys above their weight. I think for the first a month or so of the season, and I was like, oh yeah, well let's go with a smaller club. Sorry, and not just pick some teams just money bags and just buying in and buying out everyone. So that's how it came to follow us, and then a few it was. I think certainly the FA Cup run is obviously the huge part of that season, culminating in watching the final in my room with an Arsenal friend and getting way too excited in the first half an hour. And then he just kept quiet, after the game, which really I think stung more than if he just given it back to me. But I think it's mostly been just looking back at some of those things. Even I just watched a few of Jelovic's best goals, and I was just we actually haven't had a striker of that quality probably since him. We've had some good strikers that have, but I think just how the range of finishes that he could do, and even those top five, there was a bicycle and some real nice goals. And I was just thinking, man, we actually haven't had such a strong finisher since him, and that partnership that they were able to strike up so quickly between him and Long was sensational.
Yeah, I think I can't remember if it was our top 5 Premier League goal, or kind of been top 5 Premier League, because that would have all been Giovanni, but it was something like our top goals from that 14-15 season, and 2 of them were from Jelovic, and they were scored in back-to-back weeks. Oh no, they were the same game. In fact, they were in that Newcastle game where he scored that bicycle, and I think he scored one. No, sorry, it was Jami who got the other one. But yeah, Jelovic scored two, a couple of great goals around that time. Yeah, Mitch, second half of the season, we talked first half of the season a couple of weeks ago. Second half of the season, I was sort of looking at the league form. It actually tapers off quite a bit this half of the season, but I guess, the highlight being these two guys on the screen here in Jelovic and Long joining in the January, which we'll talk about in a bit more detail in a second, but they really sort of carried that second half of the season in terms of the league, at least, for excitement.
Yeah, well, they were cup tied, weren't they? So they couldn't.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
race in the league. But yeah, they were, as Dan mentioned, probably the best strike we've had in a long time, anyway, with Yoa. And yeah, I don't think I'd ever seen City, or definitely in the Premier League, with a striker that could get in behind as well as Longy did. Even though that was probably what Hernandez should have been doing in top flight, but it was all Longy that did it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think I'm pretty sure this screenshot's from the Cardiff 4-0 game where I think they both got on the score sheet, or at least Jelovic did. And it was just that sort of game where you look at that as sort of the definition of what you'd want out of these two as a partnership, where I think Long was getting in behind the defense, as you said, playing the ball across to Jelavic, scoring goals from the edge of the box, where it was just such a complete performance. And it's such a frustration. I mean, I saw the other day, I think Shane Long's now been released by Southampton after 8 years at the club. And it's remarkable to think that he joined Southampton from us after 6 months, and we doubled the fee. We bought him for like 6 or 7 million and sold him for like 12 million pounds 6 months later to Southampton, where he was for the next 8 years. Was remarkable. But I remember, I think it was like the first half of that season we played West Brom, and he was at West Brom. Because I was thinking about it the other day. I'm like, I'm sure we try to sign him in the summer, and then there was some issue where like the alums, I don't know, try to change the price they were going to pay, and at the last minute, and so then the deal fell through, and he was still at West Brom, played against us. I think he might have scored the equaliser in that game in the 1-1, and then we finally got him in the January. I remember we were after him for ages, so it was good that when it came off, it was a successful move.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like the alarms to change it, does it?
No, that's right. That's right. Cool. Well, I'll move on then, and first we'll talk about the outgoings from that January window. Not really as many noteworthy players. No disrespect to these two, but not as many noteworthy players as we would have in some windows. But Aaron McLean, pretty reasonable servant for the club in that early sort of alum period. I think he was £1 million or something like that we bought him for. And Jack Hobbs completed his permanent move to Nottingham Forest as well. I think he'd been there on loan in the first half of the season. I guess, Dan, you probably wouldn't have too many memories of these guys in City shirts. So maybe I'll start with Mitch. If you've got any sort of, I don't know, thoughts or memories of these guys playing for City and what they offered?
I think most of my memories of Hobbs is probably against us. But with McLean, I remember when I first got some FIFA games, I would always stick him up front, just because he was really, really OP on FIFA in terms of whole players anyway. But yeah, I was only pretty young, so my memory is also a little bit hazy.
Yeah. Dan, did you have any memories of these guys or not?
I'd have to ditto what Mitch said, that most of my memories come from from my familiarities from FIFA.
Yeah. McLean, I think McLean was that sort of player in FIFA where, because he was strong, FIFA was always like very OP, because it's like his finishing may have been a little bit better on FIFA than in real life. So you can kind of get away with it and just use his strength. But then, yeah, I mean, we've already sort of talked about this pair a bit, but really sort of blew that window open for us, signing them both within a matter of days, I think, for £7 million each. I remember, I think it was Jelavic. I was sitting in a pub in Hull, scrolling through, it must have been Twitter at that point, seeing the news coming through that we'd actually agreed a fee with Everton for Jelavic, and thinking that was unreal. And then getting Long as well was pretty awesome. I mean, yeah, I guess we've already sort of talked about both of them, but I guess, is there anything that you want to add, I guess, starting with you, Dan, just about the partnership that they struck up, the fact that, basically their goals kept us in the league for another season. And like you said, I guess we haven't really seen strikers, or at least a strike partnership of this quality since then.
Yeah, I think, as you sort of said, the importance they had to City at the time obviously can't be understated with their goals, securing us survival. But it's mind-blowing just thinking about how well and how quickly they adapted, into not only the squad and the team itself, but that partnership with each other. When you see so many new signings come and struggle, even, Hernandez was mentioned when he came, and in the following Premier League season, just struggled big time in the Premier League. It wasn't until we went down the year up, that he got his 22 goals or whatever in the championship.
Yeah.
But I think that's the thing that really sticks out, is how well they managed to just to gel together and understand each other's play, and probably two of the best signings to in one window to come, because of how well they, I think, complemented each other really as well.
Yeah, definitely, Mitch. I was just thinking about it, but this would almost be the last time that we really played with two up front. I mean, I can't even think of many Premier League sides these days who play with two up front. It's such a sort of an outdated structure, I guess, even in a side. Like even these days, you see sides just playing with no strikers in a false nine. But to have two strikers come in pretty close together in the window and hit the ground running as much as they did was pretty awesome.
Yeah, your classic big man, little man, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was always like a long fan more than Yella for those 6 months anyway, just because I thought like they were very different. He was very like, I guess he looks very UK, and Yella really doesn't look like that. And Long was like really sharp, and Yella was very not slow, but not obviously fast, and a little bit. What's the word I'm looking for? I don't know, but his actions are a little bit different, very different to Longier, I guess.
No, I know what you mean. I mean, you look at them and you think Long looks like the one who's going to be the prolific striker. Jelavic just the one to sort of hold it up and play him in. But Jelavic actually ended up, I think he's our top Premier League scorer, would be. And as we sort of already talked about, like the following season, like he scored some cracking goals. So it's a bit of a weird one because he actually did end up being quite a skillful, capable frontman for us. And I think, if I'm not wrong, I mean, he went to the World Cup with Croatia. I think he's one of only a few City players to play at the World Cup. I think he scored, I can't remember if it was in the opening game of the World Cup or it's definitely one of the World Cup games as well. So a pretty awesome stat to have as a City player.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, well, I mean, the meat of this episode has got to be that FA Cup run, so let's get into that. And very deliberately chosen photo there with a bit of a glum-looking Harry Maguire looking on in the background as Tommy runs away celebrating his goal. But I sort of we'll go through it game by game because I mean each game sort of has its own little fun memories, I guess, along the way. I was saying to Dan actually just before we went to air, since I was over in the UK when this FA Cup run kicked off. I actually missed the game against Middlesbrough because I went to there was a North London derby in the third round of the cup as well. So I actually got tickets to that and went along to that and sort of looked on TV that night and saw, oh yeah, City got through. Oh yeah, that's nice. So that's kind of fun. But you know, little did I know the run would end up going on. I guess Dan, I think you were saying you were looking at the highlights before we went to air. So I guess that Middlesbrough game, probably the most I guess run of the mill, you'd say, along with the Southend game, run of the mill games of the run. 2-0 win, comfortable winners. Proschwitz with a pretty awesome goal to seal it at the end. I think my main memory is he sort of scored the goal and looked over at Bruce to sort of say, you know, I can score goals like this. Why aren't you playing me more? And I think he got loaned out to Barnsley a couple of weeks later. So that was the response. But yeah, what were your thoughts on the game briefly?
Yeah, look, I only saw. I don't think I actually remember. I don't think I got to watch this one. And I think the only games I remember watching this one, like actually watching from this run, were probably the semi-final and the final.
Yeah, okay.
And maybe then highlights after some of those other games. I think just with access to those to those other games, but so I don't really remember watching the Borough game. I only just remember the goals that I watched, 20 minutes ago on replay. But that Proschwitz goal was pretty good. On the half turn and banged it in the top corner.
Yeah, Mitch, did you have any memories of this one, or was it just one of those like tough to remember cup games, early rounds that you just sort of think, oh yeah, we got through it and it's all right?
Yeah, no, literally that. The early kind of like, we're not going to go not going to go much. I would have watched the game, but yeah, wouldn't have popped it in the memory bank at all.
Now, my memory. So the good thing about that Southend game, a couple of things. I actually went to this one, which was good fun, but it was of course against Phil Brown. So the big thing about that game, of course, was just like I think it was I guess we would have played him when he was at Derby, but having that reunion with Phil Brown was pretty fun. I guess my memory of it is I'm pretty sure the first goal that Fright scored, it was like a really like dour game, raining conditions, really tough to kind of get anything done. We were looking in a little bit of trouble. And I think it was Proschwitz who gets the ball and sort of runs forward to try to score our opening goal. And Fright literally just takes the ball off his boot and like scores it himself because it's as if to be like, I don't trust you to score the goal. I can't remember if it was Prosch. It was definitely someone who Fright was just like,
they came in the edge of the box and he got the touch but was facing away from goal, and Fright just ran on the edge, nicked it from his toes, went around the corner and then knocked it in.
Yeah, that was just my memory of it. It was like, nah, you're not going to score it. I'll score it. And I guess Fryatt was really our hero of that FA Cup run. We'll sort of talk about him a few more times in some of the other games, but scored quite a few goals for us in that cup run to get us through. Mitch, do you have any memories of the game facing Phil Brown, or was this sort of in the same category as the Borough game?
Yeah, no, this one I definitely remember a little bit more because, as you said, the conditions weren't great. And I think this is what started my love affair with Matty Fryatt. Obviously, I liked him anyway, but as you know, I'm not going to reveal the other parts of the passwords, but he's my password for pretty much every account I have. Yeah, and it all started pretty much at Southend.
Yeah, nice one. I guess the next one was actually probably the tensest one of the lot, which was the draw with Brighton, where I think we'd fallen behind pretty early in the game. And I think my memory of this one is I didn't actually watch the game. I think I had to go to work. So I was back in Australia by that point, and I was standing at the bus stop being like, oh, yeah, this is it. We're out of the cup, whatever. And then Sagbo popped up late. And, speaking of fright and valuable goals, Sagbo as well scored a couple of valuable goals in this cup run. I guess talking collectively about both Brighton games, we then had the replay where Corrin and Davies, I think it was, who got us the goals in the replay. Dan, thoughts on these two games?
Yeah, look, it's sort of the same. Where I don't actually really, I sort of have like a half. I got a half. I feel like maybe I watched one of these.
Was it Ujoa who got their goal? Because then obviously remember him more at Leicester, but I'm pretty sure it was him who got their goal.
Who, sorry?
Ujoa, like Uloa, whatever his name is.
I for some reason I had in my head it was like Lua. That's
maybe it was. Right. Yeah, okay.
But yeah, I feel like this is like just on the vagaries of my memory. Like it's almost there, but I can't quite like form it into anything solid, unfortunately. But
no, that's all right.
It was a nice piece of like just from the replay. Like it was a nice piece of play to equalise, obviously late, and then Davies with a real good header, and then the free kick from Corrin that like took a deflection or two deflections and bounced past, and I think it was Myler who's like on the line, like, no, I'm not going to steal this from you.
I do remember that actually. Yeah, no, good one. And like, I feel like by that point, I think it was definitely after the Brighton game where you're thinking, hang on, we're now at a point where we're, after beating Brighton, we're now a win away from a game at Wembley. And you start to think, okay, it does matter who we pick up in the draw. And we got Sunderland, who had already at that point beaten twice in the season. The prospect of making it 3 wins from 3 against Sunderland for the season was pretty tasty, with a game at Wembley on offer. And so, of course, we've got, I think it was, I can't remember who scored the first goal in that one, because it was definitely, I think Fryatt got the sealer, other way around. I think Fryatt got the second one, which was the one where Catamol, for some unknown reason,
Fryatt got the third one.
Oh, he got the third. Yeah, okay.
The third one was the back pass, and then Myler got the second one where he nicked it off his toes and ran from halfway.
Yeah, that's right. Who got the first? Was it Davies again? I think it might have been Davies who got the first in that one. I'm going to look it up while we talk.
Actually, possibly, because they were saying, I vaguely remember something from that call, just that they said like that Davies had got was 3 in a row or something.
Yeah, that's right, because he'd scored. Yeah, that sounds familiar. But yeah, this was like.
Yeah.
Sorry, no, you go.
Oh, I was just going to say, because if it scored in the replay against Brighton and then maybe in the league and then against us, that would make also not against us in this game against Sunderland.
It was Davies. 68th, 72nd, 77th minutes. So 3 goals in what's that, like 9 minutes or something. Pretty wild. But yeah, this is the first one that I like really, obviously other than the Southend game, this is one I really remember like sitting down to watch and being like, this means something. This is a pretty big game. Mitch, do you have memories of this one?
Yeah, pretty much just the goals and the same thing that you just said. Like the other games, like, another cup game. Like we're gonna play them every year. They don't really mean much. But yeah, the prospect of going to Wembley and then pretty much just after that, just singing Que Sera. I'd never heard that song, but just after that, singing that, just so we're going to Wembley, like, oh, this is cool. I can get used to this.
Yeah. And sorry, Dan, did you have any other thoughts on that one? Or
no, not really. But I think like it's the same sort of thing. I think for me, this like not really knowing that much because I hadn't really followed much of the English football at all prior to this, and then going like, okay, well, we beat, we got through, and then go, okay, well, this is a Premier League team, so this is sort of like, more bit of a big deal as well. Sort of starting to like, I guess as well, sit up and take a bit more notice. And like the playing at Wembley didn't really mean anything to me at the time, but like it just didn't. I'm too naive, didn't know anything. But yeah, it was starting to get interesting anyway from a newbie's perspective.
Yeah, certainly getting interesting. And so then my memory of the semi-final was obviously it was such a huge game, and it was, I think it was only our second semi-final, and the chances to go into a final. And the fact I think I remember when they did the draw right after the Sunderland game, they did like a test draw, and it had us coming up playing Arsenal. And I thought it was the real draw, and I like absolutely panicked because I was like, "There's no chance we're making the final now." And then they're like, "Oh no, we'll do the real one." And we got Sheffield United, and Arsenal got Wigan. And I'm pretty sure that Arsenal, I'll have to look up that score as well while we're talking. I'm pretty sure they only scraped past Wigan in that one as well. But with the semi-final, I think I don't know, 3 or 4 mates came over to my place. We had a bottle of champagne ready to go if we won the game, all watching it. And I was like, it's going to be so typical City if we somehow lose this game to Sheffield United. And, sure enough, we concede the first goal. We get back into it. I think it was Sagbo who got the goal to get us back into it. And you think, okay, we've settled, we're into it, we're fine now. And of course, then they score again to go 2-1 up at halftime. And you think, how have we done this? Like, that's got to be it. Like, we've had our chance, we've had our luck with the Sagbo goal, but that's going to be it. And then, of course, the second half happens. Fright comes on at halftime, scores almost instantly. And then I think it's like the highest scoring semi-final ever in the FA Cup. To win 5-3 was pretty magic. But yeah, I guess starting with you, Mitch, what were your memories of this one?
Yeah, I was at my girlfriend's house at the time, and she'd watched maybe one game of football ever, and I was like, no, you are watching this with me. I don't care how tired you are in the morning. You are staying up and watching this with me. And yeah, just the same thing. Like when we went in down at halftime, it's like how like we've been the better team, but like we shouldn't be losing to them. And then yeah, as soon as Fry came, I was like, yeah, sweet. And then it's definitely the Huddleston goal, the touch, and then the next touch to take it away, and to finish it. That was just like, that was the moment. I was like, yeah, this is it. It was so good.
Yeah, I was actually just looking. So Arsenal beat Wigan on penalties to get through to the final. So you can just imagine if Wigan had somehow got through. But anyway, yeah, Dan, what do you? So this would have been, I guess, probably like a pretty big game to watch at the time.
Yeah, look, I think this was probably the first of the FA Cup games that I probably watched start to finish, and then probably maybe a handful of league games. I'm not sure. I can't remember if I had access to all the Premier League games with Optus Sport or something at the time. I can't really remember, but I feel like I was watching a few games, but not like all of them. And maybe I was just like, I don't know, too interested in clubbing or something, doing something silly that I was out at the wrong time of the night or something. But no, it was tense. Coming like just going behind early and then as you said, like clawing back, and falling behind, and then clawing back, and then it just sort of felt like there was a point just after half time where it just sort of felt like things were turning, and then we got one and then another and another, and then I don't know. It sounds like it was more comfortable than it was because it was still fairly late when we I think knocked the fifth one in, but to actually seal it. But yeah, it was. It's just one of those games. It was wild, but yeah, and then send us through to the big dance. But we all know.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I've realized I've missed a trick here. I really need to. I'm going to try and pull up a photo from that final because it's just to show how remarkable it was in Sydney at the time. Excuse the. Well, hang on. Actually, maybe what I'll do, I'll save it and I'll bring it over. Just the fact that like in the build up to that final, it was. Here we go. Let's see if it pops up. Zoom it in a little bit. In the lead up to the final, So we'd made the whole City Australian supporters group actually at the start of this season, which we didn't mention in the last episode. But this was the season that sort of kicked off the whole City Australian supporters group and started to get a lot of City fans in Australia kind of in contact with each other and actually realizing, hey, I'm not the only wacko out in Australia supporting City from the other side of the world. And in the lead up to the final, I'd sort of put out a call around to different venues around Australia to see who was showing the FA Cup final to try and get everyone somewhere to watch it. And I think I'd said to the club, I'd tweeted to the club or something before the game being like, hey, can you just retweet that we'll be at Cheers Bar in Sydney for the FA Cup final? And they did. And I had no idea this is the response that we would get. Rocking up to the venue on the night, literally walking down George Street, the main street in Sydney, and getting towards Cheers, and there's a couple of City supporters outside having a smoke, and I'm like, this is unreal. This is like I'm back in Hull. And then walking inside, and you've got, what's that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7, if old mate's an Arsenal supporter over there in the corner, 7 Arsenal supporters who after 10 minutes into the game were just kind of standing quietly in the corner thinking, what the hell is going on with all these City supporters here? But it was unreal. Like Mitch, you were like that was the night I met Mitch. So Mitch came along for the game as well. It was the night I met Mitch. I mean, take me back to that night, Mitch. How unreal and how amazing was that atmosphere?
Yeah, I mean, as for the first time we met, and I was obviously incredibly nervous because I was 17 and I got a fake ID just so I'd be able to go. I tried to like sneak in behind you, and we got in, and yeah, when I walked in, I was like, what? Like all these City fans exist? Like I thought it was just nuts meeting you, let alone everyone else. And I remember I had a really sore back just from standing up because we got there early, and I think we watched a Dundee game beforehand. And
who was it? It was St Johnston, was it?
Maybe. Yeah,
like that.
Yeah, sounds
Hang
right.
on, I'll pull up this photo because there's a couple of familiar faces in here. We've got a very young Mitch managing to get into Cheers, as well as Logan. So a couple of podcast regulars on here as well at the venue. But yeah, sorry, keep going.
Yeah, no, and then just when we scored the first goal, it was just kind of like disbelief and like, oh, okay, yeah, this is football, whatever. And then when we scored the second, like, I remember looking at you and just like, holy shit, like,
yeah,
what, what, and just everyone in raptures. And we even had Tottenham fans there, like in whole gear, just as to get up Arsenal and stuff, and just it was insane.
Yeah, and then I mean, I have a confession as well, is that after that second goal went in, I mean, this was the start of that lockout era, and they were serving everything in plastic cups at that time of night anyway. But when that second goal went in, I threw my empty plastic cup, in the air, and one of the security guards thought someone else had thrown it and actually kicked them out of the venue. And I felt so guilty and so bad, but at the same time, I was like, I can't own up to it. I can't be kicked out for this game. So that was like, but that was just that moment. It was just the pure emotion when that Davies goal went in, and you just thought, this is unreal. Like this tops any expectation you could have had for this game, and what we've managed to achieve. And yes, the result itself was kind of heartbreaking in the end, but and it's probably the most upset I've ever been at a sporting event. Like I was upset for days after. I've still never seen a replay of that goal, and I just refuse to ever see a replay of that goal. But just the fact that we could go up 2-0 after 10 minutes against us, or even less, it was like 7 minutes, and have another chance inside 10 minutes as well through Alex Bruce. Dan, I guess probably not scenes quite as wild as this you're saying you're watching at home, but how clear are your memories of this game, and then how big were the swings of emotions in it for you?
Look, I could describe the layout of my room on that morning, or like at the time, and where I was sitting and where my mate was sitting, and like at what point he went to bed, and like, or whatever. I don't know if we watched it. We might have watched. Was there like a delayed replay on SBS or something? Can't remember. Maybe something.
Maybe.
Because we were watching. We got up at like 5 a.m. to watch it, so we might have been after, like, not watching it live. And then because he went to work like about an hour in or something, where we were still at a point where we were still in front, where he went to work, and then he left, and then they scored the goals, and I was real disappointed. But then I was saying, like, he came home, or like he came back afterwards, and basically like didn't make a big deal out of it, which I said like stung way more than if it had been like,
Yeah, it's almost like
up
the like
yours,
pity.
like,
It's the
yeah,
pity
it was
where it's just
feeling
like,
like,
oh, yeah.
because I was like super excited because he'd been a long time Arsenal supporter, and so we scored, and I was like, "Give it to him!" I'm like, "Yeah, how's that? Cup that in!" And like, yeah, and then like that was the first one, and he's like, "Oh, you know, lucky goal, whatever." Then we score a second one, and I'm like, "Oh, you fuck shit!" You just ripped into him, and he's just like,
Yeah.
and then, you know.
Well, that's right. That's what we were doing with the Arsenal fans at the pub. It was almost exactly the same sort of situation where you think one goal, you think, yeah, you know, like this is a good bit of fun. We scored early, whatever. 2 goals, and they're basically just standing there being like, do we leave? Like, can we, like, do we stay and put up with this? Like, it was unreal.
Yeah, so I just remember, sitting on the uncomfortable blue futon lounge that I had, with the TV up on the like piece of antique furniture that my dad had from I think my great grandma. And then it was surreal that first like 10 minutes, and then being like, even through for like long periods, I was like, oh, all we got to do is like jag another one, and we were like, and we'll like ruin their momentum, and we'll hold on, and we'll actually like do this, but it didn't quite go to plan.
It's almost that old adage of, you know, you score the goals too early, gave them too much time to come back. And I think as soon as it went, I mean, look, to be fair, you say it, but, you know, I thought when it went to extra time, it was all over. But we did have that final chance where...
Don't talk about it.
Was it Fright Central, or was it... Because it was obvious, so Luco took the shot when he should have squared it. Was it Fright? He should have... I can't even remember who it was, to be honest. I can't remember. I think I've seen that replay like once or twice, and I've just gone, why did I watch that? Like, what if moment? But the players were just out on their feet. I remember, I think McShane got subbed off because he was just cramping up, and Bruce was like struggling as well. And like they gave their absolute all in that game. And I just remember like Stephen Quinn just absolutely terrorized Arsenal. And like that sound grabber at the start, of course, he put the ball in that Davies ended up scoring from. But playing him in that position was just such a masterstroke from Bruce. And I was always a little bit surprised that he didn't get some sort of bigger move from us, because I think he went straight from us to like Reading or something in the championship. Like, he was such a quality player for us, and especially in that game, played a massive part in how we played and how we managed to take that lead. And then, of course, this game put us into Europe. Like, first and only time so far that we've been in Europe as a result of this game, taking us to sort of unprecedented heights as a club. I guess I'll start with you, Mitch, but just closing thoughts, summary thoughts on how the season ended and where it set us up for the following season.
Yeah, I guess. Well, I mean, that's probably the biggest moment in our whole city lives thus far. Yeah, I don't know. I just have so many memories of that year, and like meeting you and meeting all those other people, and it kind of, I guess it kind of just opened the doors to. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm trying to say.
No, fair enough. No, it was an awesome end to the season, despite how that FA Cup final ended for us. Dan, I guess summary thoughts on that second half of the season and how it all ended up for us.
I think that I vaguely remember like having after the final anyway, being like paying attention somewhat to where Arsenal was going to finish, so that to see whether we would still qualify, whether we would qualify for the Europa League directly, or whether we'd get the qualifying round. Because I think if they'd finished in if they'd finished in Champions League spot or whatever, then we would have got a higher bracket, I think, in Europa or something. Some weird thing where I was like half going, oh, if they just, and then I'm like watching them, and I think they choked a little bit towards the end, and so they took something which I can't remember, but it was weird. But look, I think we got the job done. That's I think the main thing I really remember. We managed to survive and avoid the drop.
Job done. Absolutely. Well, job done for us as well. Look, it was a great episode to reminisce. A bit of a longer one, to be honest. I mean, I guess with that FA Cup run, there's a few games in particular to think back on and remember. And we didn't even really talk about the Premier League games. I mean, beating Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's Cardiff 4-0 was pretty fun as well in that run in. It's probably the main highlight of that second half of the season. But look, thanks for joining me, both of you. Thanks, Dan.
No worries.
And thanks, Mitch, as well.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me again.
No worries. And look, thanks everyone for listening in. Share your memories of that season, and especially of that FA Cup run, and where you watched the final, whether you were at Wembley or whether you're watching somewhere else. Let us know in the comments below, or share the episode around on Twitter, and let us know your thoughts as well, and like and subscribe to the channel as always as well. It is getting pretty close to the kickoff for the new season. We'll probably have our first episode of the new season out just under 2 weeks away, probably, and then we'll be back the following week for a real preview of that first game against Bristol City as well. I know we've got a couple of signings in the pipelines at the moment, and I'll probably stop recording this and see that we've been linked to another 2 or 3 players as well. So plenty to talk about and plenty to watch when it comes to City at the moment. And we've got a couple of friendlies starting soon as well. So until 2 weeks from now, when we're back for the season, come on, City.